Are you thinking like an operator or are you thinking like a business owner? There's no one way to do anything. 95% of small businesses fail in the first year. That's going to be a huge focus of mine in the next 1 to 2 years is like, I just want to find good partners because my goal is hopefully they run the department and they make more money working for me than they did. Some skills are learned through just experience.
If you need help with your overseas hiring, let me tell you about my friends at Sagan. For years, we have been hiring overseas team members in our call center, accounting, and marketing. We've typically run this discipline ourselves, but the more we hire, the more complicated it's gotten. As we started to add deeper expertise hires, like hires in accounting, in AP and AR. So we called up my friends at Sagan and we said, hey, here's what we're looking for. How do you guys think you can help us? And they were awesome. The thing that I like about their model is it is a monthly retainer instead of this giant 30 to 50% of the first year's salary of whoever that person is that they hire. So it's this monthly charge. They hire X amount of candidates a year, and it's been really good. We just hired our first 2 a couple weeks ago, and they've already been awesome. They're jumped into the accounting department. Check out Sagan Go, which is SAGAN Go.com for more information. Welcome back to Owned and Operated. Today I have my good friend Brian Sloan with me from TR Miller. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been great connecting with you over the last month or two.
I met Brian on LinkedIn, and I haven't quite yet, but I've almost taken back every terrible thing I've said about LinkedIn over the past decade. I've just started talking there more, and I get to meet like amazing people like yourself, and it has been a lot of fun. I sort of hate how much fun I've had on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and you learn so much too. So even like X, Twitter, I've been following Chris Hoffman a lot on X, and just the content you
Chris
can
is
get.
Great on Twitter. Yeah, his stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're talking about TR Miller today. You guys run an awesome shop out in Chicago. I can't wait to go head to head with you one day. I think that'll be fun. Maybe I'll launch a pop-up in Chicago just so we can tussle. But how about you tell me a little bit about how you got into the business and give me some origin here on TR Miller.
It's crazy to believe. I was sharing this with someone the other day. I've almost been in the industry for 20 years already, which is crazy to even think about. So,
well, given that you're 22, that can't possibly be right.
I mean, it might even be longer. Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a journey. So, was going to community college locally here in 2008. My dad had the opportunity. I mean, even my great grandpa and grandpa were in the trades, and they were more on wholesale. But my dad had the opportunity to start TR Miller. 2008, housing market just crashed. The gentleman he was working for decided he wanted to exit. It was new construction, housing market crashed, a bunch of GCs owed him money. Said, you know what, I'm 65 years old. I think it's just best that I retire, and asked my dad if he'd like to buy his phone numbers and some trucks. So my dad asked, he's like, hey, you want to come with me on this journey? And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to school for math. I just love math and didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So joined my dad. I had a team of 10. That was 2008-ish. Started off just sweeping floors, math guy trying to get in the trades, sweeping floors, doing new construction. And over the next 6 years, kind of went from, new construction, hanging ductwork, to fabricating, to residential install, to service and commercial installs, and just kind of did it all. Like any good family business, mom was in the business, brother was in the business, 4 of us out of the 12 team members we had. Around 2014, 2015 became a lifestyle business and still had around 12 people. We didn't really have experience any growth. We just maintained what we had. My mom exited the business, and my dad kind of just wanted to they were kind of burnt out. The stress kind of just burnt them out. And my dad just wanted to do sales from, 9 to 3, run a couple sales calls each day. And mom said, I'm out of here. And so kind of just left the company in me and my brother's hands. And at this time, I finished going to night school, got my degree in accounting and business, and then was going on to get my bachelor's. So I started digging the financials, and I'm like, well, now I see why what the business has become, expenses have gone up and revenue has gone down. Actually, it went down over that period of time. And so
was it because the cash was being ripped out, or like we weren't watching as close, or like what was the...
Yeah, I think a couple things is sometimes you get bad accounting advice from accountants. And if you never owned a business and you're doing pretty good, I mean, they were $2.5 million, which is good size family business, probably making after payroll and everything, $100,000 on the bottom line. Mm-hmm. And so accountants will say, hey, like you're going to owe, 35, 40 grand to the IRS unless you buy some trucks or spend some of this money on assets. And so they did that. They went on, they bought some nice personal vehicles. They remodeled some things and was just kind of using the cash to help support their lifestyle based on some bad accounting advice, I think, that they got. So that was a big contributing factor. Also, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but sometimes when you're the owner, having like self-accountability is sometimes challenging.
I think very challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, because who, most people own because they don't want a boss. So then it's hard to whip yourself into shape.
I think that's actually an interesting conversation because it's true, right? Like, let's say I'm a service tech and I don't like my boss because he's holding me accountable to certain metrics.
Yeah.
And so then I go down to open up my own business. And what I realize is you have to be more accountable to performance than you were before you open up your own business. Like, you have to make sure you stay disciplined, waking up every morning and digging into the numbers and not only holding yourself accountable, but you got to hold others accountable now. And I think there's a lot to be discussed in that.
Yeah, there is. There was a Facebook, I don't remember. I don't think it was our Facebook group. I think it was like Tommy Mello's, but there was a Facebook like post in one of these groups, and someone was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going out on my own. And then they sort of gave like the why. And I'm like, dude, you are going to fail. Like I responded, like, you're going to fail. Like the reasons that you're wanting to go out is like, you are a bad performer. Like the best thing you could do is go get a job because you will fail if you go out on your own. Because like, if you're a bad performer, like now, you're going to be so much worse when everything is on your shoulders. Like, I don't know, like that's not the path.
Yeah. Cause I mean, you think about the additional, like, and that's why maybe my parents got burnt out, in hindsight is, like, there's a real toll on you to be able to perform, the stress of, you have the stress of not only performing for yourself, but to keep the installers busy. And then you have obligations to any bank debt that you might have. And then you got all the taxes on top of that. Is like, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it that just, you're not exposed to it, and no fault to them. They just, it's lack of knowledge sometimes. It's just a gap of knowledge maybe.
But I agree. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot there and people just don't get it.
Yeah. But, so kind of going on. Yeah. So, 2015, 2014 started to get more involved in, I would say at that point I was wearing like the general manager or president hat, really operating and managing the business, meeting with legal and accounting and making sure day-to-day operations are going smooth. First, step one was we just came off a year where we lost money as I kind of got in there in 2015 as my mom exited and my dad, we just rolled off of money or a year on the P&L with a loss and kind of forecasting a loss in 2015. And so step one was, how can we reduce our expenses, right? And how can we drive sales? That was my goal, drive more sales and reduce expenses. So meeting with everyone from telephone vendors to garbage vendors to direct cost vendors, with manufacturers and distribution, and how can I get product at a lower cost? And really, the best time to drive sales is in the summer. And so, God bless some of our team members where, what was nice coming through and working every position is the respect you get from those team members is, you weren't just someone that, just all of a sudden became my boss. Like I had to earn that respect and earn that. And so it's like, hey guys, we got to drive some sales this summer. And so they stepped up big time. Our team stepped up. So it was, they would do a furnace and air conditioner install finish that and go do another AC install really in these peak months to drive top line revenue. So that really got us. I mean, I think we finished that year at like 30% growth. So really just, we reduced our costs. So like we had just a fantastic year, double digit profit that year. Margin was incredibly healthy. I think we were like 48% for really not knowing that's an area we should be focused on. So then we continued to grow, joined Nexstar in 2017. They helped with like our service process. They helped with some financial, like making sure our GL accounts and our P&Ls were set up correctly. So our general ledgers and profit and loss statements. And then continued to grow. So, from 2016 to 2023, we grew anywhere between, I think, 30% of growth was a bad year for us. We grew 40 to, I think one of our best years was like 70% growth year over year for like 7 or 8 years. And wrapped up last year, I think just shy of 25 million is kind of where we wrapped up last year at. So learned a lot of lessons the hard way, and also there's great people in our industry that are open, don't invite you to their shop and say, hey, what would you like to learn more about? So super thankful for those guys as well.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about, that's come up a few times recently. Like our industry is so unique. And I think like on one hand, you could say it's because we're all regionally focused. So it doesn't really matter if other people, if I site visit you, which like you've welcomed one of my team members tomorrow, which I'm so grateful for, but like we don't compete. So like it's sort of like I'm not negatively impacted, but it's also like time out of your day and it's time out of your team's day. And I think it's so unique in our industry that you can just do that. I was in Dallas a few weeks ago and I just sent a couple messages and like multiple companies were just like, yeah, sure, come on. We'll open up everything you want to see. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I really, one, I'm grateful, but two, I was explaining this to someone the other day and they're like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And I'm like, it's the industry, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like we are all like this. We'll just all open up the door.
And I think a lot of that credit goes to some of the early giants. And so, I would say, names that come offhand, like I think that are super welcoming is, it probably starts a lot with, to my knowledge, Jack Tester, Jamie D. Domenico, Leland Smith, Dave Geiger, like all these giants who have been so welcoming and sharing information over such a long period of time. It's kind of became in our DNA in our industry. So I think that's where a lot of that started from.
We have people in Chicago this week. You and I were talking about this before, but we have people in Chicago this week, and Brandon's going to come visit you, which is amazing, and Brandon's going to visit our mutual friend Lucas, and it's like this is great, like this is amazing, and you just get you get to like see under the hood, which is just so impactful, because then you go home and you get to change stuff. So
and I know like one of the things as he visits our shop is he's just curious on, how do I know you have a lot of experience as well with multiple locations and stuff like, as we continue to grow is, what stays centralized, what gets decentralized at the local level, and just sharing, because I'm sure I'll learn a ton of stuff from him as well. So just how open everything is.
Well, how about you walk us through, like the last 2 years, you've gone multi-location. That was a big transition. You just clipped your first $3 million month. Like you've got some big stuff cooking. So how about you explain just sort of like what's multi-location been like? Why multi-location? I that's something that we've been really interested in.
2022, I think we grew from, let's say, 16 million to 23 million. 2022, so I had $7 million of growth in 1 year. So as we were going into 2023, and we have this history of growing 40s, 50, 60% year over year, going into 2023, we knew we were just out of space in our current location. So we were only a single location in 2022, and we ran out of space. There's nowhere to park. We're in an industrial park, so we're parking at all our neighbors. We got vehicles on the road, offices. Me and my brother are sharing offices. We're starting to have like a lot of people share offices, share workspace. People are doing one-on-ones in the mechanical closet room. So we're just like out of space. And so we're like, all right, we're planning all this in 2022. It's like, all right, in 2023, we're going to move our office off site. And we're going to open up a second location to better serve, the the southern part of the Chicago market. So we're going to go from one location to 3 locations in 2023. What we didn't anticipate was a slowdown in both the global economy and in here in North America with GDP. And we didn't predict the slowdown in just nationally in our industry with a reduction in equipment sales. 2023 starts, we move into a second location, second operating branch in Southern Chicago market. Yeah. We open up a central shared office space, which we moved our call center, finance, marketing, and a few other positions. What we realized through 2023 is each month since pretty much the beginning of the year, we started having slippage on budget and we started missing budget. But we're still, we're still invested in proceeding forward. As we go through 2023, we bring on 10 technicians in our HVAC Next Tech program. We bring on some plumbing staff. We bring on the supports admin and support staff to support the forecasted revenue. And as we keep missing budget through June at this point of 2023, we still have all this overhead budget or expense and direct expense. We just have all this infrastructure to support growth. We were forecasted for 33 million, I think 32 million. And as we continue to this budget at some point in July, it's at what point do we pivot? And we made the decision to proceed forward, because we're blessed. One thing we're blessed about in the Chicago market is we get 2 peak seasons. It's a curse and a blessing. So you get your first peak around May, June, July. August is always a slowdown. Beginning of September kind of slowed down, and then it peaks again October, November, December, January. And so we're well, let's see how Q3 and Q4 go. And held on to all the infrastructure support. So things like, dispatch teams and call center, no reductions there, warehouse, all the things to support a $33 million revenue target. And then also the technicians. And, missed on September, October, and then, finally decided that, there was some tough choices that were going to have to be made over the next 3 to 5 months. And what was nice, though, is, one nice thing is 2024 is a new year. So then not getting stuck in what happened in 2023, but all right, what do we learn in 2023 that will help make us, better operators, better business owners? And how can we rebound in 2024?
Can you walk me through the second location itself? What did startup look like? How did you drive the first leads? How did that work?
Yeah. So as we went into that market, we looked at what our new customer acquisition costs were going to be. What is each lead going to cost?
And you already serviced that market a little bit? You already had some percentage of revenue there?
Yeah, we had some percentage of revenue. I think we had about 800,000 of revenue in those zip codes. The original goal was to drive it to 3 million in year 1 and then 5 million in year 2. And so, what kind of marketing expense or marketing resources are going to be needed for that? Who's going to operate it? The questions at the time was, are you going to do someone internal that's part of your current operations team? Or are you going to bring someone in from outside to run that location? Other things we were thinking about at the time is, what kind of space are we looking for? And also the question is do technicians on, our current location, are we going to allow transferring, in the first year? Or what does that look like? What does support look like for that? So those were some of the early on questions with that location.
How did it, you said, first year 3, second year 5, how did you pace against that?
Yeah, it ended up first year 2, second year is going to probably be around 3.5.
That still feels good. I feel, and what do you think the big, that's what you thought the challenges were going to be? What did the challenges end up being?
It's still something we're working through. This is new for us, so we didn't, one, we had to learn the skill set and the experience. Some skills are learned through just experience. So I'd say the things we're still learning is what processes make sense for our larger operating branch, which will do, 25, 27 million this year. And then what processes make sense for a 2, because they're different processes that work for our larger 25, $27 million branch aren't going to be the same processes that work for a smaller $3 million branch. So that's something we're still working through. Like not having selling techs and having comfort consultants is a proven model or proven process for our larger location. But the question mark we have is it a proven process for a smaller branch of maybe three HVAC techs, or is there something where a threshold where you need 5 or 6 service techs to support one consultant? Like just working through those like process changes. Other things we're thinking about is, like a larger branch, you have dedicated like warehouse people or dedicated dispatchers. In the smaller location, you still need one person wearing multiple hats. So, this one person, thankfully, she's amazing, Katie. She's a dispatcher part-time. She's a warehouse person part-time, office manager part-time. And so just, identifying what processes, when to incorporate processes at what point, I guess, is one of the things we're still working through.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that have come out of it is, I would say last year we would have our smaller location run some of our larger location calls, where this year it switches. So just the sharing of resources and technicians where, hey, I have too many calls in the southern market. Is there a chance you can send some technicians down to help cover these calls? Instead of rescheduling them or pushing them to the next day, we're able to be just more flexible with technician resources like that.
You've gone to 2, so you'll probably do more. What do you think that looks like?
I think our current thought process is let's shore up what we're already doing. So I think business units start to mature around like 3 million in revenue. And that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure people could argue it. So I want like 2 business units we're currently working on is our smaller location that I'm considering that one single business unit. So let's get our smaller location to 3 million. And then let's start to get those like HVAC business unit or plumbing business unit inside that location to 3 million. And then in our larger location, we're working on getting our sewer. So we do sewer excavating and sewer lining. Let's get that to 3 million. We plan on adding electrical. So in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be adding electrical as a line of service. And then hopefully by the end of 2025, we'll add a 3rd operating location. So 4th total location.
So we ran multi-location. I've told you this, but we ran multi-location for a while. A little bit of a different game because we like bought these businesses and then we just kept their locations, and then they basically ran there for like 2 to 2.5 years each until we shut down those locations. And each one was, like $2 million to 4. Obviously, a lot of the same challenges. Like leadership is a real challenge. Process is a real challenge. Multiple warehouses. It's all just like complicated, unnecessarily complicated. So we ended up consolidating. And when we think about going multi-location again, which we're thinking about the next like 12 to 24 months, the perspective is different because we've done it. So we feel like we got punched in the face a lot. I think like how I think about it is different. So I'm now thinking about that Comfort Advisor challenge you just brought up a minute ago. And like Gettle runs a remote closing process. And when I think about why, I think half of the reason is this. I have a better way to describe this. We hired somebody once a couple years ago, and they were in the pet containment space. And the pet containment space, it's like, dog collars and fences for your yard. They manufactured the product and they owned their distribution by launching locations where they put a dog trainer and like installers that would install this $3,000 average ticket service in people's yards. The way that they thought about growth was just through like, I'm going to add another distributing location, which is like basically for us, just the location in general. So they have the benefit of the upstream, whereas we don't. But I think that we're looking at multi-location similarly, where how do we create almost like a chain of distribution throughout wherever we want to be? And like, what's the minimum viable resources that we can put into that location and then support them from somewhere else? Like Gettle's remote closing sales process. Like if you don't need a salesperson there and you can just close over the phone, Like, why not do it? So you're spending a ton of money on marketing and you don't know if it's working. So my friends over at Service Scalers, they're dropping this special promo for a $99 digital marketing audit. So that's going to cover your PPC, your SEO, your LSA. And what they do is they just open the hood and they take a look. They tell you what's working, what's not working, what could be optimized, and all the big areas for improvement. Check out the link below to schedule your digital marketing audit or head to servicescalers.com.
Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense. This can be very generalized, but we can kind of jump into like specifics. Is like, I think a lot of processes that we have today get us to a certain level. But as you scale, you have to refine those processes. And so, it works at 2.5 million in revenue, or it won't work at 25 million. So there's just scalability. I think Ghetto has cracked that specific, using that as the specific example, is like they have cracked how can we scale with high, because really it's about benchmarking and performances. Like they know that they can easily scale. Like one of the challenges we have with the two different locations, I'll tie it back to the Ghetto, is different close rates and different average sales. Is our close rates and average sales might be different at location 1 than location 2.
Yep.
Where by using that process it allows that scalability where I'm sure the average sale and close rate aren't that fall off no matter where the location is. And so it's about, one, always getting better and creating consistency and like what scales and what doesn't. That's one thing I've really learned to appreciate lately. And when we were growing so fast, it's probably something we just kind of blew over that we're going back to fix today. Is like one of the mistakes I made early on was in call center. Is we were probably like 5 million, let's call it 2.5, somewhere in there. When you're smaller, you have to wear all these hats. And I decided it was time to hire a call center manager. Went to market, I hired a call center manager, onboarded them, not probably great. We didn't have a lot of like performance metrics in that area. And I said, here's the keys to the car. Pretty much don't wreck it. No, did not show them how to drive the car, like best practices, resources, here's how to fuel the car up. I just said, here's the keys. You have call center manager experience, and I expect you to do better than I did. I mean, that was probably really the onboarding. And I quickly learned that things that were important to us as a company, there was no tribal knowledge or any type of institutional knowledge transferred when doing it that way. And so things like one-on-ones or weekly team trainings or meetings, like a lot of that stuff was lost because it just wasn't as important to them. Mm-hmm. But I knew it was important to drive at least the current success we have. And so many times I would hire a manager and say, here's the keys to the car. And they always want to come in. Every manager, I shouldn't say every, I think that's very broad, but a lot of times managers want to come in and put their fingerprint on it. They want to come in and do it their way, which what I've realized over the years is in the first 6 months, share them our way of doing it as a manager. Is if you do it this way with this call script, you should have these type of predictable results. And like I should be able to have this book rate, I should have this abandon rate. But I didn't have any of that, like that benchmarking. And so when they come in and say, hey, I want to do it this way, it's like, cool, let me know if it's successful. But I should have said, here's our way to do it. Here's the result we can expect by doing it my way. And then after 6 months, let's do some testing and test it your way and see if we get a better result. Like I'm okay with them putting their fingerprint on it, but it should at least get us a better result than what we're currently getting. Mm-hmm. And so I think, using that, tying it back to that Ghetto thing is, I think it's awesome to continue to try things to get a better result. And obviously they got to a point, and I'd have to imagine, I could be wrong. I respect Ken so much. I think what he's done is incredible. It's, every operator like me, it's what we strive for. It's our goal. And he cracked it. Like by doing it this way, I can get a better result. It's like anything, just continue to try things and try to get a better result. And so I threw a lot out there, but that's kind of how I've been thinking about things. It's like, let's try things differently, but I should expect a better result than what I'm getting today. If I'm getting a worse result, let's go back to the way we were doing it.
How do you think about the experimentation phase?
Yeah, I think you should do A/B testing. I mean, we've done things where it's like, we just go hard right at it, where maybe we're not like doing like shooting a bullet. Instead, we're shooting a cannon. But where it allows, we try to like shoot a small bullet before we shoot a lot of a large cannon or a lot of resources at something. But sometimes we just know, like, if this is a direction we're going to go, we have to go all in, and be ready to pivot right back out. That's how I think about it. Things like call scripting you can do. At the end of the day is like I'll continue to use call center call scripting is like, here's the call script to use, and we can expect a raw number, so 25% book rate of all calls by using this call script. But you can start to make it your own, and I encourage you to make it your own, and hopefully get to 27, 28, 29%. But if you start dipping below 25%, we're going to go back to my way, because I know it's going to give me this type of result. Yeah, like one thing I think a decision we made is, it's still early on to know if it's going to work or not, but we decided to bring digital marketing in-house. And that was one of those things where, do you test it? Do you not test it? Like, what do you do with it? And as we went into it, we did a lot of prep work. Like we did, 3 to 6 months of prep work on what it's going to take. We talked with a lot of different companies, but at one point we said, all right, we're going to bring PPC for sure in-house. What do we want to do with SEO and other avenues? And we said, if we're going to jump, we got to jump all in. Like, we just got to be 100% committed to go all in, expecting a better result. That was one of my like that. I just wasn't going to, I did not want to go all in on something and have a worse result. So I said, we just got to expect a better result. Yeah. And we got to be ready to pivot if we're not getting a better result. And I also ask, what's one thing I also think about is, what is our risk, and what's our risk tolerance? Is like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And is it palatable? Like, is it worth taking that risk? And what's the upside? Is it worth taking that risk as well?
What does the team look like now in marketing? Like, what disciplines are in-house versus outsourced?
Yeah, in-house, we have a full-time marketing manager in-house. We have social and community in-house. And then we have fractional roles for like and I know a little bit, but if there's anyone digital listening, they're going to probably correct me. We have like a content writer that's outsourced. We have a SEO optimization person outsourced. We have the PPC person outsourced. Yeah. And I think most of them are working between like 10 and 20 hours per week on our account, like on us, but it's a contractual fractional type role.
Can you explain the social and community role?
Some advice I got from another contractor. They'll do about 100 million. Greatly respect the gentleman who shared the information with me. I think he's one of the best marketers in our industry. And he shared with me that's what they had. And he said that, as you look to grow your marketing team, here's maybe some steps that I would recommend doing. And step 2 was a social/community outreach person. So they do, obviously social, that's the layout. But the community side of it is we try to do about 26 community events per year. Yep. Everything from chambers of commerce events to park district events, anything in the community related. And they're the point of contact. And so we allocate, here's your dollars for the community, and they manage the budget for that role.
We ended up going not the opposite direction, but like down the same vein. But the thing that we missed was the social side of it, so we launched this like in-person and event team, and the idea was moat. And it's hard to do in-person marketing, so that's a moat. What we've missed, we're trying to catch up on, is like, okay, now we do it, but now we need to talk about it a lot more. Like, we missed the social component. So we got like the lift, and I would say that we did the hard part. It's just now we need to talk about it more, which is kind of funny. But that team is going from like 5 people to 9 people right now. Like, it's kind of a big team. It's mostly
something I was picking. Yeah, it's something I was picking your brain on.
Yeah, it's so like that team, for the listeners, it's events. So we do like 3 to 4 events a week, and then we do door-to-door canvassing all through that same team. And most of the team is part-time. There's like 2 full-time. The manager's full-time, and one of the canvassers, like the lead canvasser's full-time. It has been fun. What I want, and you have a better perspective on this than I do, which I appreciate. Like, I went into it from we're going to drive leads which we did, but I think you've come at it from like, we're going to engage the community, probably also drive leads, but like you had a healthier perspective than I did. And which I appreciate the challenge, but that has been cool. Like we did an event last week and it was like a neighborhood, like porch rock event. Like we set up our booth and like people would drive by like chanting they would like drive by like yelling our jingle out the window. And I was like, first off, $1 million well spent. And second, like that's fun. Like it's just an interesting way to engage with the community, like totally differently than anybody else we compete with.
And what's interesting, John, is me and you shared this when we first met, is me and you seem to always get to the same spot, just taking different routes to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that the message there is like, there's no one way to do anything.
I think, and we have that with a friendly, so we have a competitor here that we have like a lot of respect for. They're like, we're genuinely grateful to compete with them because they make us better. They're, I think, just a hair smaller than us, but they push us, which is good. And it's the same thing where they will execute on something, and like we were iterating on what, or like we'll execute on something, and then like we know that they were working on it, and it is sort of this like. It's kind of funny how we all end up in the same spot. Like they're not doing events the way we're doing it, but they are doing events, and in a way that like we wish we were doing it, but they probably wish they were doing it our way. And like we'll probably all end up in the same spot. But it is it's funny. We all end up in the same spot.
Yeah.
So how are you thinking about introducing a new trade?
Yeah, electric, probably similar to the way we did. So plumbing, we greenfielded. Yeah, it's, we told ourselves, so we've never done, and it's both a positive and a negative. We've never done an acquisition for anything. And it's something we've always done organic, but it's something we told ourselves, organic is very painful. I'm sure acquisitions are also as equally painful, maybe different types of pain.
Yeah. We all tell ourselves that the other side has it better.
Yeah. We're like, we're never. Yeah. We're like, we're going to acquire electrical. And now we're like, all right, dang it. We're going to greenfield. I think we're going to greenfield it again. There's just not that many electrical companies out there. Yeah. So how we did plumbing originally is we really targeted, we brought on 1 or 2 licensed professionals. So we purchased the experience, and then we said, how can we, keep them busy? How can we drive calls? The most affordable way to drive calls is through your existing customers, and more specifically, your membership customers. So we really, the way we did plumbing is we called all of our plumbing memberships, our heating cooling memberships, and said, hey, we now offer plumbing. A lot of our members have been asking for it, when their water heater breaks. We now have it. And so if you need anything, give us a call. Or if you're interested, we can come out and do a free inspection, make sure, your water is not going to fail on it, your sump ejector. And so we really just targeted our membership members. And then we slowly start to integrate like website, SEO, slowly integrated it on our branding. So updating wraps on trucks. And slowly did it. And then once we felt we had a good base, we really started to turn it up. So we would, start to invest in things that are more expensive, like PPC, LSA, things that just have more of a cost to it than maybe a phone call to a customer or a postcard in the mail. So that's how we're kind of thinking about electrical is really just, getting 1 or 2 experienced individuals on the team and start to work with them on building out price book, start to work with our marketing team on getting the brand updated, work with our call center on getting outbound calls to our VIP members. Just let them know, hey, we have it. If you need it, give us a call. One of in now our plumbing team, we probably have close to 20 team members on that team. And we started it in 2020. So have had a lot of great.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, had a lot of great growth on that, and super happy with it. I should have been a plumber. I tell myself, John.
Yeah, plumbing is it's good and bad. But like, we love it because it's like very stable and it's just like up and to the right. And it's just, machines gross margin. Whereas like we're plumbers launching HVAC, not even launching, we're, bigger now, but like HVAC is a tough nut for us to crack.
HVAC is tough. Yeah. It's, you got to deal with seasonality 6 months of the year and staffing.
Yeah.
And,
well, and purchasing is totally different. Like the way you think about like these vendor deals, like you don't do that with plumbing. You just go buy the water heater. You're not negotiating $3 million like vendor agreements with, it's just a totally different game.
Yeah. And so, that's how we're thinking about electrical. We're thinking about greenfielding it. But we were originally going to do an acquisition, which we're still open to. Like, when I say that, like, we want to partner with someone. I would love for in any of our business, like heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, for someone to say, like, Brian, I love doing electrical. Like, I love it. It's my passion, and I just need someone to help me with the office side of things. Like, I don't like answering the phone when a customer calls. I just want to run out and do the job. Yeah. So like, really, I want to find like, that's going to be a huge focus of mine in the next 1 to 2 years, is like, I just want to find good partners, because my goal is hopefully they run the department and they make more money working for me than they did. Because some people, that's something I realized. So I mentor some companies too. And what I've realized is that, going back to how we opened up with like the technician that would decide to go into business for themselves, the sad part about that journey is more often, I think there's a statistic out there, like 95% of small businesses fail in the first year. So it's something that like crazy like that, or in the first 3 years or 2 years, is that what happens, and it's sad, is they end up paying themselves less than they were making prior to leaving, and they get wrapped up in all this debt. And it really is a sad story. So like, I would love to partner with someone that's like, hey, I want you to Brian, to focus on the business side, and I want to just focus on going out there and making sure we're providing the best electrical service. Hopefully that falls in my lap. That might be like the unicorn out there, but I'd love for something like that.
Yeah. How much of your role right now do you think is identifying like that key partner, or like that next opportunity, or like how much of your time gets spent that way?
Not enough, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine, and we were talking about same thing. Like, that's what my role should be. And like how you act, what actually happens can often be a different story. And, but I think like that specific problem, and I've referenced this book like so many times, but it's been helpful. But like every time we have a problem, like our brains are naturally wired to like, let's go attack this problem and solve it. And the issue with that is it usually doesn't scale beyond that. And it, like, you're not building a new competency. You're not like building a team. Like that problem will crop up again because we're busy people. And so really focusing on like who can solve that problem and then maintain that, continue to solve that problem I'm trying to get it to take up more of my time, because as I see these problems, they sort of drive you nuts when they're happening. And then whenever I like actually am able to take a step back mentally and like, oh, I just need to hire someone that already knows all the answers, or like I need to go hire this unicorn electric person, and that's going to take a lot of my time, and that's the solution. We've gotten further, but like it's hard to, this, like you go from one fire to the next, and it's hard to like take that step and be like, I really need to be doing this thing, which would advance faster, further.
When you asked me that question, what I was thinking is I'm probably not only wearing like the president role, but kind of like our COO hat. Yeah. When we were seeing a location, it's common that you have a general, it's very common that you have like president, and then you'll have like an operations or general manager underneath you. And that's been a challenge too, as we went to multiple, the three operating locations, and a central is now I'm kind of the glue in between those two. And so just kind of got pulled back down into operations, not wearing that president hat as much as maybe I should be, which should be, who is that, where, it's like recruiting when people, say, hey, I can't find good technicians out here. For me, hey, I can't find an acquisition. It's like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing with your time to find that? Is, there's plenty of great technicians out there. But when we were smaller, I literally had to, when I was in charge of recruiting, I would put 4 hours on my calendar a week and say, all right, I'm gonna go, comb through Indeed. I'm gonna send out phone interview requests and schedule face-to-face. And I found good technicians, and now we have a full-time recruiting team where that's all they do is I'm sure it's like anything. There's plenty of partners that would love to partner with us, but I think the question is what am I doing to find those partners? Just like there's great technicians out there.
It is hard to know like what's next. So like, hey, as a leader, like on one hand, there's guides and Nexstar and peers and those are like helpful guardrails, but like there's not really like a book that's or like a map on like, hey, here's exactly what you should be doing next. Like step by step. Like you got to figure it out. And like you have to figure it out day by day. And I think that like transitioning, like the thing that you just said of like, oh, okay, I'm in this seat that I probably shouldn't be in because it's taking away from these things that I should be doing next and thinking about next. But yeah, it's hard to recognize it and it's hard to like know what the right answer is.
One thing that I have a better appreciation for, and again, I have a ton of respect for Ken Goodrich over at Gettle. And I sat on a podcast with him, and when he said it, I didn't understand what he was saying, but that's why he's way smarter than I am. Is he said it was something along the lines of, "Are you thinking like an operator, or are you thinking like a business owner?"
Yeah,
and I didn't know the difference between the two at the time. And what I've come to appreciate is I'm a good operator, but what I'm repositioning myself to is being a good business owner. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like my job as a business owner and a shareholder is to maximize, our stake, maximize for our stakeholders, which I end up being one of those as well. Is like, am I driving more net profit or operating profit for our stakeholders because I happen to sit in, those seats. And so that's really how I'm thinking about things is like, are these decisions I'm making as president driving revenue or driving profits for our stakeholders is how I'm starting to think about things and making sure the decisions I make align with also the best decisions for our stakeholders, our team members and our customers. Yep. Like those are our stakeholders. It's our customers, our teams and the owners. And sometimes you make decisions that better serve for us. It was a lot of times our customers or our team members, but really as president is I have to have all three interests aligned. And so even as we think about next year is making decisions to drive, more net profit so that our price, this whole thing, price per unit, price per share, like making sure that's increasing by 20%, but also making sure that we're providing great customer service. So like this year for us was a gross profit years. That was our annual initiative this year was how could we get to how could we drive 5 points on our gross profit? How could we increase our employee retention? Where next year it's going to be how can we grow 2 more points on gross profit, but more importantly, is how can we provide a better service to our customers is really going to be our giant focus next year is just, doing either NPS surveys, surveying our customers, driving more Google reviews, but really putting the customer first and the technician first for next year. So I went on this long tangent of what I'm thinking about, but that's how I'm thinking about like what the next step is.
That was going to be the question was like, how are you thinking about what's next? And that,
yeah, because I think there's 4 quadrants is, you have, I can make decisions that impact my P&L. I can make decisions that impact my balance sheet. I can make decisions that impact employee engagement, right? I can make a decision that impacts customer engagement. And sometimes you make a decision where it maybe benefits one of those 4 pillars more than the other. But like, all right, what pillar of those 4 do I need to focus on next? And we're thinking about really like our employee or just our people pillar is like how can we provide great customer service, get better at it, but also provide a better service to our team members. Because this year, we had to rebalance our budget. We had to increase our gross profit. I think our gross profit is up 32% in dollars from a year prior.
Amazing.
We went from a 43% gross profit to a 48% gross profit and really figure out the revenue. So we're up, I think 15 or 20% year to date as well. So really just focused on, as my finance guy says, it's like when you're on the plane, you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can like save others. So like really this year was like, let's focus on our financials and next year we're thinking about our people.
Well, this was great, man. I appreciate the deep dive. I appreciate the conversation. If anybody wants to sort of reach out and connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is always a solid choice. But if not, not LinkedIn, I always tell people to text me. My cell is 815-830-0113. And let me know if you are. So one thing I've become passionate about is like, if it's another contractor, it is 100% response immediately, LinkedIn acceptance right away. But if I think they're trying to just sell me something, it's usually a low conversion rate for them. If someone try like 0 if someone's trying to sell me something. So
awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today. If you like what you heard, make sure you give Owned and Operated a 5-star review and check out ownedandoperated.com.